2, and they let it happen. 2 kids. We gotta show people that nobody can get away with this. Not a priest or a cardinal or a freaking pope.
It was a cold winter night in Boston, Massachusetts. The city looked calm and peaceful. But inside the police station, tension was quietly building. 2 officers are discussing the arrest of priest named Gagan, while the Father Gagan sat silently alone in an isolated room, completely motionless. In another room nearby, a high-ranking church official comforted the mother of 2 children, assuring her that Gagan would be removed from the parish. Soon after, an assistant district attorney arrived and instructed the officers to keep the arrest away from the press. The younger cop hesitated, clearly disturbed by what was happening. But the older officer didn't question it.
Let her aim it.
Moments later, Gagan walked out of the station alongside the church official. As the younger cop watched in frustration, the car disappeared into the darkness. It is the farewell day for Boston Globe editor-in-chief Stewart. His co-workers gather for a small goodbye party filled with cake, drinks, and speeches. Senior Globe reporters Ben Bradley Jr. and Robbie Robinson share heartfelt and humorous stories about their poker games, keeping the mood light as everyone enjoys the moment.
The new editor arrives on Monday, so I'm sorry, buddy, but what the hell do you know?
But while the newsroom enjoys the party, Sasha Pfeiffer and Matt Carroll return to their workspace, which was completely isolated from their other co-workers' vision. They find Michael Resendiz already there, buried in work.
Want to be on the right side of this?
Mike has ignored the party entirely, focused only on the story they are currently investigating. Frustrated, he complains that the assignment is boring and going nowhere.
I just don't think the story's for us.
Soon Robbie arrives and asks about the team's progress, but Mike avoids giving a direct answer. The conversation shifts to the Globe's incoming editor and new boss, Marty Barron, who is arriving from Miami. The team jokes about how strange it feels for an outsider, someone not from Boston, to run such a deeply local newspaper. Sasha mentions that Barron had previously cut staff at another paper.
I have a friend down in Miami said he cut 15% of the staff.
Mike asks Robbie whether the new editor plans layoffs at the Globe. Robbie admits he has no idea.
I don't know, Mike.
Mike reminded Robbie that he has a meeting with new boss, and is it about staff cuts? But Robbie's reply was the same. Instead, he asked the report of story they are currently investigating.
It's an answer on the crime number story.
I'm telling you, I really don't think that story's for us.
Later at night, Robbie meets with the new editor-in-chief of his newspaper, Marty Barron. Barron questioned Robbie about his team, Spotlight,
The Spotlight team.
and the kind of journalism they pursue. Robbie explains everything thoroughly. The team is led by him, Walter Robinson, called Robbie by everyone around him. His reporters include Michael Resendiz, Sasha Pfeiffer, Matt Carroll. Their work is confidential, and only reporting directly to Ben Bradley. And also once they commit to a project, they can spend months or even years investigating and reporting the full story.
How long does that typically take?
Hard to say.
A couple months.
Once we settle on a project, we can spend a year or more investigating.
After hearing this, Barron begins writing notes in his notebook, carefully recording what Robbie has said. Seeing this worried Robbie remembered what Sasha told
I
him.
have a friend down in Miami said he cut 15% of the staff.
Concerned, Robbie directly asks Barron if he is anticipating staff cuts.
You anticipate more cuts.
He didn't give yes or no answer. He simply smiled and said that he was more focused on making the newspaper more essential to its readers.
I just think that we can do better.
The next day was the big day. The new editor sat before every senior member of the Boston Globe during their first meeting together. He asked if anyone had seen the small article about lawyer Mitchell Garabedian, who claimed that Cardinal Barnard Law knew about these abuses of children, and did nothing about it. One person remarked that the lawyer is crank.
The attorney's a bit of a crank.
Barron responded calmly in the article. Lawyer Garabedian claimed that he has documents to prove and they at least need to go through those documents.
Who says he can prove Law knew about it?
Ben remarks those documents are sealed.
Those documents are under seal.
We have to go through those documents.
And to get those they need file a motion in court, and church will get that as suing
Go
them.
through those documents.
You want to sue the church?
We wouldn't sue the church. We'd file a motion to lift the seal.
The church will read that as a sue.
Good to know. Strikes me.
After the meeting, Robbie and Mike head to Ben's office to discuss about Barron
Gutsy call for the first day.
and his plans for investigating the church authorities.
How'd it go?
They were later joined by Mike. Their conversation is suddenly interrupted when Ben receives a call from Barron, asking both him and Robbie to come to his office immediately. When they arrive, Barron reveals that he has already spoken with lawyers and filed a motion to unseal the court documents. With a hearing date now set, Ben quickly asks,
Who's the judge in this case?
Constance Sweeney?
Ben's expression changes instantly,
Good Catholic girl.
clearly worried about what that could mean for the case. But Barron doesn't dwell on the concern for long. Steering the conversation back to the bigger picture, he turns to Robbie and insists that the abuse allegations should become a full spotlight investigation.
Would you consider picking this one?
We could.
He wants the team to dig deeper, uncover the truth, and understand just how far this story really goes. Robbie brings the news back to the spotlight team. Everyone is stunned by the scale of what they're about to investigate. But Mike is different.
That's great.
He's energized, almost eager, sensing that this could become one of the biggest stories they've ever worked on. Robbie quickly grounds the excitement with a warning. He tells the team that this investigation has to be handled with extreme caution, even more discreetly than their usual reporting. No loose conversations, no careless phone calls, no hints to anyone outside their circle. Most importantly, no one can know that Spotlight is investigating a scandal involving the church. Because if word gets out too early, the entire story could disappear before they ever get close to the truth.
Good luck with that.
During the discussion, Sasha mentions that she already knows attorney Mitch Garabedian when he was fighting against the abusive priests,
Covered him at the courthouse.
but admits she wasn't been able to get much info out of him. According to her, Garabedian is extremely cautious and difficult to deal with. Mike immediately jumps in, saying those are exactly the kinds of people he likes interviewing. The challenge only makes him more interested, and he volunteers to meet Garabedian himself. Robbie then brings up another major lead, the case involving the abusive priest Porter. He points out that attorney Eric McLeish had previously handled cases connected to Porter, and may know far more than he has publicly revealed. Robbie asks Sasha to arrange a meeting with McLeish as soon as possible. Slowly, the investigation begins taking shape, with each lead hinting at something much larger hidden beneath the surface. The film then gives us a brief look into Sasha's personal life. At home, she lives with her husband and her deeply religious grandmother, a woman who has devoted her entire life to the church. It's a small moment, but an important one. It quietly shows how personal this investigation could become for Sasha. Going after the church isn't just another story for her, it's something that could deeply affect her own family and the people closer to her once they learn what the Spotlight team is uncovering. Mike arrives at Mitch Garabedian's office for an interview.
Hello? Oh, hi. I'm Mike Resende. See Mitchell Garabedian?
Please have a seat.
But his secretary tells him to wait until he's called in. Nearly an hour passes with no response. Finally, spotting an opportunity, Mike slips into Garabedian's office himself.
Hi.
Who are you?
And Mike quickly introduces himself as a reporter from the Boston Globe, reminding him that they had an appointment an hour ago and he was there to talk about lawsuit he filed against church.
Suits. You should get your facts straight. Can't show you the church documents if that's what you're after.
No. Oh,
They're under seal.
yeah, I know that.
Mitch avoids every question, saying church is watching him closely,
Watching me very closely.
The church?
Yeah, the church.
insisting he doesn't have time to
I
talk.
probably shouldn't even be speaking to you.
But Mike refuses to back down.
And I think it's an important story. Everybody will hear about it.
Church thinks in centuries, Mr. Resendez. You think your paper has the resources to take that on?
Yeah, I do. Do you?
Listen, I'm very, very busy.
As the conversation ends, Mike makes one last
Can I at
request.
least talk to some of your clients?
Before closing the door, Mitch pauses for a
Call me
moment.
tomorrow, I gotta think
Thank
about it.
Meanwhile, Robbie and Sasha meet with Eric McLeish, one of the lawyers connected to cases involving accused priests. As they question him about the allegations against the church and Cardinal Law's possible involvement, McLeish carefully avoids giving any direct answers.
Yeah, it's tricky, and these are shitty cases.
Instead, he shifts the blame toward the families,
So most of these victims don't come forward. Well, they're kids, you know. These kids come from tough neighborhoods.
suggesting that many of them eventually drop the accusations themselves. He also dismisses attorney Mitch Garabedian, describing him as a desperate, broke lawyer simply looking for a way to make money.
Mitch isn't a people person. My guess is he doesn't have anything on law.
These meetings only gave very little information to the Spotlight team to work with, but it becomes clear that no one connected to these cases is willing to speak openly about the church, whether they are on the side of good or bad. As the investigation continues, the team digs through old articles and forgotten reports searching for connections. During her research, Sasha discovers a victims support organization called SNAP.
A victims organization?
Survivors Network of Those Abused by Priests.
Founded by a man named Phil Saviano. At the same time, Matt uncovers another case involving a different priest. This catches Robbie's attention even more, cause lawyer connected to this case, Jim Sullivan, is one of Robbie's closest friends.
Don't you know Jim Sullivan? The church brought him in to help out.
The discovery hints at just how deeply connected everyone in Boston seems to be. Later that evening, Ben, Matt, and Mike attend a baseball game together. While the team struggles on the field, Ben quietly asks Mike how the investigation is progressing.
It's a good story.
Why?
I'm just watching the game.
Mike mentions the new priest they found and the victims' organization, hoping it will show they're getting closer to something bigger. But Ben isn't impressed.
Phil Saviano.
Snap?
I thought you were watching the game, Steve.
Throw you and Garabedian.
I'm working on it.
Robbie says McLeish thinks he's bluffing.
He tells Mike that none of those are solid proof. Unless he can get Garabedian to talk, the story could fall apart before it even begins. The response clearly disappoints Mike, reminding him just how difficult this investigation is going to be. Robbie later meets up with his friend Jim Sullivan during a round of golf, using the relaxed setting as an opportunity to bring up the abuse cases involving priests. He carefully asks Jim about the settlements connected to those cases, hoping their friendship might persuade him to open up.
Well, I can't talk about the case, Robbie.
But Jim remains calm and professional. Without giving away anything, he simply tells Robbie that he can't discuss matters involving his clients.
I don't know this guy, Barron, or I just don't want to see you taking a bullet for him.
On Sunday, Sasha attends church with her grandmother, watching how peaceful and devoted she is during the service. But while everyone around her seems comforted by faith, Mike arrives at the office after his jog and finds Robbie already there. Frustrated, he tells him that Ben still isn't impressed with the progress of the investigation. Robbie admits Ben said the same thing to him as well.
I think it's a dead end.
Yeah, Ben emailed me.
He said we should let it go.
Mike, feeling the pressure building, asks what they should do next. Robbie doesn't
I
hesitate.
think we gotta start ignoring everybody on this one. I'm good at that.
He tells him they need to ignore the doubts around them and go deeper into the investigation, no matter where it leads. While all of those things happening, on the other side of Boston, meeting takes place. Marty Barron meets with Cardinal Law. A customary courtesy visit expected of any new editor stepping into the city. Despite everything unfolding inside the Boston Globe, Barron attends without hesitation. He listens carefully as the Cardinal speaks, offering only brief, measured replies, keeping his presence restrained and professional.
I find that this city flourishes when its great institutions work together.
I'm of the opinion that for a paper to best perform its function, it really needs to stand alone.
When the meeting comes to an end, the Cardinal presents Barron with a small gift,
Think of it as a cardinal's guide to the city of Boston.
enclosed within a book of catechism. Marty takes one look at it and lets out a heavy sigh. Next day, Monday morning, Phil Saviano, founder of a victims organization, arrives at the Boston Globe and sits in front of the entire Spotlight team. Without hesitation, he begins laying out everything he has collected over the years, a box filled with photographs, newspaper clippings, and documents, almost like a visual timeline of abuse and silence. He turns the meeting into a stark presentation. Then Phil begins his story. He explains how he was a poor child, manipulated and abused by someone he should have been able to trust.
This is not just physical abuse, it's spiritual abuse too. How do you say no to God, right?
He then hands over a list of victims and reveals something the team hadn't fully connected yet, a treatment center where abusive priests were sent after being caught. The center, he explains, is run by psychiatrist Richard Sipe, who he believes could help uncover even more truth.
And talk to Richard Sipe. He worked in one of the church's treatment centers.
As the conversation deepens, Phil makes a stunning claim. He knows the names of 13 priests who abused children.
I know 13 right here in Boston.
Robbie, visibly shaken, presses him for more details. But Phil's composure breaks. Frustration and pain spill out as he asks why it took them so long to pursue the story, reminding them he had sent this information years ago.
Sent this all to you guys 5 years ago.
Who did you send it to?
I don't want to say who, but they said that they weren't interested.
Overwhelmed, he suddenly stops, asks for the washroom, and leaves the room. Watching how unsettled he is, Robbie tells the team to immediately run a background check on Phil Saviano and to begin contacting the victims he identified. With no response from Mitch Garabedian, Mike decides to go see him again in person. But even then, Garabedian refuses to engage or offer any real help. Frustrated, Mike breaks protocol and reveals that he is working on the case for Spotlight.
I'm working on something bigger. I'm supposed to tell you this, but I'm digging around for Spotlight.
Spotlight's on this?
Yeah, we're looking into it.
Hearing Mike is from Spotlight, Garabedian's guarded attitude shifts. Despite the team member's identity is secret, everyone in Boston knew Spotlight's groundbreaking work, and Mike understood that revealing their identity to someone like Garabedian, a man deeply cautious and already waging a lonely war against the church's agenda, would do no harm to the investigation. Garabedian finally lowers his defenses and agrees to cooperate, signaling that he may be willing to help the investigation move forward.
Come back tomorrow at 9:30 a.m.
Thank you.
Sasha meets one of the victims Phil Saviano had referred.
Joe.
He appears calm and friendly at first, but as Sasha gently walks him through the events of his childhood, the weight of those memories comes rushing back. He breaks down, and after a long pause, begins to share his story in detail. At the same time, Garabedian arranges a separate meeting for Mike with another victim.
Stop this interview at any time, Patrick.
This man also opens up, recounting what happened to him as a child. Now an adult and a father, he asks that his name not be used in the article.
Are you gonna use my name? Just had a kid and he's not sure I want him to know about this.
Mike agrees without hesitation, but after the interview ends, the man reconsiders. He tells Mike that if the story needs his name to have an impact, he can use it. Mike thanks him.
Just get these assholes, will you?
He's one of the lucky ones. He's still alive.
Later at night, Sasha talked to Joe through phone, and learns Joe's case and several other abuse cases were settled by attorney Eric McLeish.
Eric McLeish?
Yeah, that's it.
The same lawyer they interviewed few days back. But when she checks the courthouse records in the morning, she finds nothing linking McLeish to any formal proceedings. No filings, no trace, nothing.
There's nothing here.
Confused, Robbie and Sasha go back to meet him again. He refused to give any client's data. But when Sasha questioned about the court records, McLeish said everything was handled through private mediation. There was no court involvement at all. Victims were required to sign confidentiality agreements in exchange for settlements. The lawyers took a cut, and in return, the church promised to remove the accused priests from the parish.
Got him a sit down with the bishop and a little dough, and that's the best they could hope for.
But when they questioned about priests' transfer data, McLeish simply backed down. Later, they brings everything to Ben.
Victim has to sign a confidentiality. Lawyer takes a third. The church sweeps it under the rug.
He was stunned. What he thought was a limited story suddenly reveals a much deeper and more concealed network. One that runs far beyond what he first imagined. To determine which priests were transferred or quietly reassigned, Matt begins combing through old official diocesan directories that contain status updates for priests. He was then joined by Robbie and Mike. While reviewing them, they notices something unusual. Many priests linked to abuse cases are repeatedly labeled with vague terms like sick leave or unassigned to that date. Realizing the pattern may not be coincidence, they decide to gather all available directories and take them to their office to get a closer look. As multiple leads begin to converge, Mike receives a call from psychiatrist Richard Sipe.
Talk to Richard Sipe.
I got sight.
When he connects to the Spotlight team, Sipe describes the church is fully aware of the problem but has continued to manage it internally. Robbie presents their findings, revealing the 13 priests they have already identified in Boston.
13 priests in Boston.
But Sipe responds with something far more disturbing. Based on his 15 years of research and estimates, the number of abusive priests could be closer to 90.
90 priests.
The room falls into stunned silence. They immediately bring the information to Ben.
90 priests in Boston.
He questions the reliability of Sipe, but Mike vouches for him, confident in his credibility. Then Robbie has an idea. He recalls the diocesan directories and suggests a systematic cross-referencing of vague designations like sick leave and unassigned to uncover hidden patterns. Everyone agrees, and the work begins in earnest. Long nights of reviewing, comparing, and connecting names across documents. During one late session, Matt discovers a traumatizing detail. One of the priests labeled unassigned is living in his own neighborhood. Shaken, he rushes out and finds the house just a few blocks away. He frozen right in front of the house. As a father of 2 kids, it gave him nightmares. As the team pushes through the final directories, the list grows steadily. They count 87 priests in total, just 3 short of Sipes' estimate. But these are still only estimates, built from cross-referencing diocesan directories. To confirm what the numbers truly mean, he asks Sasha to reach out to McLeish once again. At the same time, Robbie contacts his lawyer friend Jim Sullivan, pressing him directly with a blunt question.
Hey, Robbie.
Could it be 90 priests?
Jesus, Robbie.
But his answer was,
Stop this, Robbie.
He realized everything, but before he could react, Sasha said she couldn't get McLeish, so they went to meet him. When they arrive, he is visibly irritated and immediately dismisses the conversation, saying he has no time to deal with it. Sasha cuts straight to the point, telling him they believe there may be as many as 90 abusive priests in Boston. McLeish doesn't react. He remains calm. His lack of surprise unsettles Robbie. Pressing further, he asks how many priests McLeish has actually represented or helped settle cases for. McLeish refuses to answer. Instead, Robbie pushes harder.
We've got 2 stories. Story about degenerate clergy, a bunch of lawyers turning child abuse into a cottage industry.
That finally cracks the tension. McLeish responds sharply, saying he already provided names after the Porter case years ago, but the Globe showed no interest at the time.
Years ago, I sent you a list of names.
As he leaves, he tells them to review their own archives and walks away, ending the meeting on a pointed accusation. The next morning, the team went to the Baron's office with a breakthrough. McLeish responded, emailing them a confidential list of priests that he settled cases for in court. There were 45 names. Mike immediately believed they had enough to publish. Exposing even a fraction of those priests would shock Boston. But Barron saw something bigger.
We need to focus on the institution.
To Barron, the real story was never just the priests. Individual predators mattered, but exposing them alone would only remove a few rotten branches.
We're going after the system.
The deeper truth was that church authorities had known for years, and protected the system instead of the victims. The Spotlight team slowly realized they weren't just uncovering crimes committed by a few priests. They were uncovering an entire system built to protect itself. It became about exposing an institution that had spent decades hiding the truth. So the team expanded their search. They went door to door, tracking down victims and following trails the church hoped had disappeared. Some people cooperated, others refused to talk, and often, even when victims wanted to open up about their trauma, their own family members stood in the way, afraid of what digging deeper might bring. For many people, including some police officers, questioning the institution itself felt almost unthinkable.
Clarify the Globe's position for me, Mr. Albano.
While things getting more and more heavier, inside the courtroom, the lawyers from the Boston Globe argued to unseal the hidden church documents. During one heated exchange, church attorney Wilson Rogers accused attorney Mitchell Garabedian of trying to smear the good name of the Catholic Church. But Garabedian didn't back down. Calmly, he dismissed the accusation and stood his ground. Watching the entire exchange unfold, Mike sensed an opportunity. After the hearing, he approached Garabedian and asked about Rogers. That's when Garabedian revealed something crucial. He told him about a public motion he had filed against attorney Wilson Rogers years ago. Because of that motion, several court documents about Father Gagan became public. Documents that directly connected the cover-up to Cardinal Law himself. The moment Mike heard this, everything clicked. As soon as Garabedian left, Mike rushed to the courthouse archives to retrieve the files. But when he finally opened the storage box, it was empty. The documents were gone. Mike immediately called Robbie and explained what happened. Realizing the evidence could disappear permanently, they quickly decided to file a motion asking the court to order Garabedian to refile the documents before the another invincible force could make them vanish again. But then tragedy struck. On September 11, 2001, the United States was hit by a series of coordinated terrorist attacks carried out by the extremist group Al-Qaeda. Nearly 3,000 people were killed, and the entire world was shaken by the attacks. Newsrooms across the country shifted their focus entirely to 9/11, and the spotlight investigation into the Catholic Church was forced to pause. 6 weeks later, Sasha met with Phil Saviano at a local restaurant. Frustrated, Phil accused the Boston Globe of abandoning the investigation for a bigger story. Sasha tried to explain the situation. The country was still in shock, but Phil wasn't willing to hear it. Disappointed, he walked away. Amid all the chaos, Mitch Garabedian finally received the court order to refile the missing document of Gagin case. Robbie called Mike with confirmation. Garabedian had already refiled the documents. Mike was in Florida, miles away from the courthouse, and now it was a race against time. If someone else got those files first, months of careful investigation could collapse in an instant. That same night, Sasha brought an old article from 1993 to Robbie. Reading it carefully, Robbie realized McLeish had been telling the truth. Years earlier, he really had sent the names of abusive priests to the newspaper. The realization hit Robbie hard.
Years ago, he sent you a list of names.
The information had been there for years, sitting right inside the newsroom, but nobody pushed the story far enough. Robbie sank into silence, overwhelmed by the weight of it all. Next day, team was doing their research. Robbie was stunned to discover another priest connected to his own past, Father Talbot, a priest who had served at his former school.
We have a victim from BC High? Yeah, he was there when I was.
One of the victims was his old classmate, Kevin. Robbie went to meet him. At first, the reunion was warm, filled with memories from school days. But the moment Robbie mentioned Father Talbot, Kevin's face changed. After a long pause, he quietly began to talk about the abuse he had suffered as a child.
Never even told my wife.
At the same time, Mike rushed back to Boston and headed straight to the courthouse with all his luggage, desperate to secure the newly refiled documents. But he arrived too late. The courtroom was closing. The next morning, Mike was there even before the courthouse opened. He handed the reference numbers to a clerk, but the man immediately rejected the request, insisting the files were sealed. Mike tried to argue, but he was ignored. Refusing to back down, Mike went upstairs to talk to a judge responsible for the records. The judge warned him that releasing the documents could create bad publicity, but Mike stood firm. This time, the documents were finally handed over. Mike opened the container, and it wasn't empty. Inside were the records of the Gagin case. Mike was overwhelmed with excitement. He cannot take documents with him. He need to copy those. Then there was another problem. The courthouse copy room had already closed for the day. There was no way he could risk returning the files and coming back later. So Mike quietly pulled some cash from his pocket and slid it across the table. Moments later, he rushed out of the courthouse, jumped into a taxi, and sped straight toward the Boston Globe. Meanwhile, Robbie and Sasha went to question officials at Robbie's old school about Father Talbot. But when they arrived, they realized the meeting wasn't just with the principal. 2 other men were already waiting there. As soon as Robbie brought up Talbot's name, Jack Dunn immediately denied everything.
This is ridiculous.
And whenever Principal Camisa seemed ready to speak honestly, but Pete calmly quickly interrupted and shut the conversation down.
We can keep this between us.
Pete was a member of the board of the Catholic Charity and an old friend of Robbie. After the meeting, Robbie and Sasha wondered what guys like Pete and Jack is doing there when they asked to see just the Principal Camisa.
Pete Conley, why was he there?
I never mentioned anybody else.
Everybody already knows the story.
Yeah. Except us.
Back at the office, the Spotlight team gathered around as Mike began reading through the newly uncovered documents. The letters contained shocking admissions, bishops and cardinal acknowledging abuse allegations against Gagin. For Mike, this was the breakthrough they had been fighting for. But Robbie disagreed. The documents only exposed one priest, Gagin, while dozens more were still hidden inside the system. Publishing a single story about one abusive priest wasn't enough. Mike argued back fiercely. The documents were now public, and they needed to move fast before another newspaper got hold of them and ruined months of investigation. He also warned that there was no guarantee the court would unseal the remaining records. But Robbie refused to rush the story. Frustrated and exhausted, Mike finally exploded.
They knew, and they let it happen. 2 kids. We gotta show people that nobody can get away with this. Not a priest or a cardinal or a freaking pope.
The rest of the team sat there in silence, stunned by what had just happened. Later that night, Sasha is at home, still struggling to process everything. Her husband watched her with concern as the weight of the investigation began affecting every part of their lives. Then Mike arrived at her house. Calmer now, he apologized for how he had behaved earlier and admitted he regretted yelling at the team. Sasha understood his frustration, but she also confessed how difficult the investigation had become for her personally. Her grandmother went to church 3 times a week. When the story finally comes out, everyone around them will have to face the truth. Several weeks pass. It's almost Christmas. And with the investigation gaining momentum, the Spotlight team uncovers evidence against nearly 70 priests involved in abuse. But without official confirmation, they cannot publish the names in the Globe. Then, one afternoon, Robbie receives the call the team has been waiting for. The judge has ruled to unseal the court documents. The newsroom erupts with excitement. Barron, Robbie and Ben later meet with their lawyer, John Albano, in a conference room. Albano explains that after the redaction process, the documents will be publicly available by mid-January. After thanking him for his work, a reporter from the Globe's Metro Department, Peter Canellos, tries to get details about the story. Robbie quickly shuts him down, insisting that no department outside Spotlight can interfere with the investigation. When Peter refuses to leave, Ben dismisses him from the room. Once alone, Robbie reveals the documents Mike obtained through attorney Garabedian. Barron and Ben are stunned. Ben wanted to know why Robbie kept the files secret. Robbie explains he wants to uncover the entire system behind the abuse and cover up. If they publish the story with the letters Mike recovered, sealed court records, and the 70 priests they have already identified, no one can deny what happened.
It's the whole system.
He asks Barron for 2 more weeks. Realizing the status, Barron reluctantly agrees and gives Robbie the time he requested. As Christmas approaches, the Spotlight team continues working relentlessly. Mike spends his nights writing and organizing the story, determined to make every detail undeniable. But one crucial piece is still missing: confirmation from inside the church itself. That responsibility is on Robbie's hand. Desperate for answers, Robbie visits Jim Sullivan. He has been trying to get information from Jim since the beginning of the investigation. Jim's wife warmly lets him inside, but Jim is immediately irritated. When Robbie reveals the list of 70 priests and asks him to confirm the names, the conversation quickly turns tense.
Are you out of your mind? Get out of my house.
Jim refuses to cooperate, and Robbie leaves house, disappointed, heading back to his car. But Jim follows him outside. Angry and emotional, he turns the blame on Robbie and the media, demanding to know why it took so many years for the truth to come out while these abuses continued for decades. Robbie, weighed down by the guilt of missed opportunities, quietly responds,
I don't know, Jim.
Jim studies Robbie's face in silence. Then he takes the list, looks over the names one final time, and slowly marks it, confirming that all 70 priests were involved. At that moment, the investigation is finally complete. Next day, at night, newspapers roll off the printing presses. As stacks of freshly printed editions are loaded onto trucks and sent across Boston, outside the Globe building, Robbie watches the delivery trucks pull away into the night. Exhausted but relieved, he realizes it is finally done. Sasha brings a copy home to her deeply devoted Catholic grandmother. She watches her sitting quietly. Her grandmother struggles to process what she is reading. Mike delivers another copy to Mitchell Garabedian. For the first time, Garabedian shows a sense of relief and satisfaction. As Mike prepares to leave, he notices 2 children sitting quietly in another room beside a woman. Garabedian explains that both children were abused. He tells Mike to keep doing what Spotlight has been doing all along, exposing the truth to protect more children. Mike looks on, furious at the scale of the damage the church has caused. The next morning, despite it being Sunday, Both Mike and Robbie arrive at the Boston Globe as usual. Outside the building, they notice 2 police officers standing guard. They expected outrage, protests, but the streets are silent. When they step inside, the receptionist congratulates them on the article and tells them that Barron has already sent assistants to help in the Spotlight office. Mike and Robbie rush to their office. In the background, we see Barron is already at work, despite the weekend. The moment they enter the Spotlight room, they freeze. Matt, Sasha, and the reception staff are overwhelmed with non-stop phone calls from victims coming forward to share their stories. With their relentless dedication finally bearing fruit, the story comes to a powerful close. This is the story of the Spotlight team, unfolding between 2001 and 2002. The film captures the unwavering dedication of the team members, their seniors, and the personal struggles of who often had to balance their own lives while pursuing the truth. When the Spotlight team exposed the scandal, it wasn't just Boston that took notice. The revelations shook the entire world. Their investigation uncovered widespread cases of abuse within the church, sparking a global conversation that continues to resonate today. This movie ultimately becomes more than a story about journalism or scandal. It is about systems of silence, the courage required to challenge them, and the importance of listening to people whose voices have long been ignored.